Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is once again that time of the week where we drop some truth bombs all over the airwaves and tell you what's really going on. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, a weekly show where we talk about politics, local activism, political strategy, and call out the establishments on its BS. I'm joined again today with my dear friend Luke. Luke, say hello to the people.
Don't tell me what to do.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But hi.
Yeah, I shouldn't.
We're all equals.
Yeah, we are. That's true. Yeah, I should have asked. That was my bad. And as always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 FM, WIDR Kalamazoo, or Western Michigan University. So, when you got in today, Luke, you said, all of the things were bothering you.
This week, man.
Yeah.
Like, this week, there's the G20. Like,
Oh, yeah.
the G20, that was a fiasco.
Yeah, we're going to go into that a little bit later. Well, we're going to go into the climate aspect a little later, but, I mean, fiasco is definitely the operative word.
And this is from... my main sources of news here are like typically our Michigan radio station 104.1. I listen to NPR. That's pretty much my main news source. And so the thing that just has me kind of not taken aback, but definitely if we're talking about most recent occurrences within especially the heavy 24/7 news cycle, Donald Trump Jr.'s blasting his emails out about meeting with a Russian lawyer or something, potentially to receive information on the opposition, whatever have you. Like, yeah, it continues the Russian narrative. We're all really actually kind of tired of it.
Yeah, if you tune in the show regularly, you might get that impression.
But this is like, it's one of those things where we're tired of it, but it keeps on giving. It just keeps on giving.
And if you're the corporate media, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is. But nothing is going to come of it. Like 100%, nothing is going to come of this.
Yeah, I mean, let's really look at it, folks. Like, did he do anything really unethical or illegal? Like, okay, replace Russian. Well, it wasn't even
according to law and the people they're pulling for expert opinions on this. No, he absolutely broke the law. But at the same time, this isn't a new thing. It's not something that is going to break the administration, because this is one of those, like, if it is an impeachable offense, really all the special investigation is going to do is going to sit it right down next to the multitude of other impeachable offenses that this administration has already racked up.
No, that's true. I mean, maybe I was misinformed, because, like, from what I heard, it was basically like a lawyer or an attorney with connections to the Kremlin that he was getting this supposed dirt on Hillary Clinton from.
Yeah, it was correct. An operative of the Russian government. Straight operative, like straight attached to the Kremlin, 100%. Honestly, I don't want to give it too much attention. I don't want to give it too much of my attention personally, because I know that, like, the mainstream media is coming at the angle of, like, or at least allowing one side to present the angle of, oh, this is a big nothing burger. Nothing happened. Yeah. Nothing's going to come of this. And I kind of agree with it. It is a big nothing burger, because this administration is already so scattered, broken, and inept that, like, I don't know what else could convince someone of that at this point. Because if you're already 100%, like, I've had one too many interactions with people who are still 100% behind this administration, and I just don't understand why. And every single time it boils down to they don't think facts are real. But
oh yeah, there's actually I glanced at an article. I can't even remember where it's from, but it talked about how the fact that any negative news on Trump, his base views as fake news. That's like one of Trump's best assets. And, there's a kind of cognitive dissonance on the left. I mean, try to criticize Obama to a lot of those true blue folks.
Absolutely. And, no question. No questions about that. It's definitely the same for both sides.
Yeah.
But at least, there is credit to the point where at least Obama was a functioning administration. Yeah,
that's true. Like, poking holes in Obama, like, you have to rely on, not that you're deliberately poking holes, but criticizing Obama relies on, talking about his connections to the financial industry and his
it involves talking about
the deep state.
It involves talking about facts.
Yes. Whereas with Trump, his ineptitude is so obvious that it kind of it's painful to see people defend him, because it's like, he's so obviously, I don't need to do any research. Like Obama, you need to actually research and figure out, wow, like he's broken X, Y, and Z promises. Like Trump breaks promises.
Trump broke all
openly.
Trump broke all of his promises
constantly.
Trump has broken all of his promises in the first 6 months of his presidency.
Yeah.
Straight up, everything that he has said about bringing jobs back or improving the economy somehow through infrastructure spending, which is a giant wall, which, they're trying to fund through cutting programs that are universally popular. So there's that. There's this travel ban and increase of like deportations. Like that's my favorite part is, they're super hard on getting the illegal ones out, quote unquote. I'm air quoting super hard over here. Especially when we take a look at the previous administration, when we take a look at the Obama administration, Obama deported more people ever.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, we're just taking a look at a dude who does not know what he's doing. He had no clue what he was signing up for.
Yeah.
And really, in my opinion, it's not an if but when. But it hinges on so many key elements.
Well, I think part of it has to do, and one of the reasons they've been going after this Russia stuff so much, because let's be clear, if we're going to go by like what legally could impeach a president, Trump should have been out there like after his first week. He's broken the emoluments clause, like in a bigly way.
Bigly.
And, also, his administration is already racking up war crimes left and right. I mean, one of the reasons I've been so blasé about like the impeach Trump movement, not only because we then get Pence, which in my opinion I think would be worse.
Hey guys, so that Sharia law that the religious right keeps on screaming about, that's Pence, except instead of a Muslim, he's a Christian.
Yeah.
Surprise.
It's
the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not as.
But he's not brown.
He acts like a grown up.
Oh,
which is, I could see a lot of these true blue people. It's like, well, he may electrocute gay people, but he doesn't send out, racist tweets.
Our bar is so low.
Our bar is so low that I worry that a lot of like moderates would be like, this is a breath of fresh air. Whoa, boy.
Okay, well, and honestly, if we take a look at some of the more long-standing Republicans, moderate, quote-unquote, moderate Republicans sitting in the House and Senate today, take a look at John McCain. This administration is, let's not even go back over it, this administration is, and the most John McCain can say is, I'm deeply disturbed by it.
Yeah.
I'm deeply disturbed by it.
It's like,
It's like where was the fire that was in John McCain during George Bush?
Yeah.
Like when John like we know that John McCain is not afraid of criticizing governments that are operated by his party when he knows that they are doing wrong. But we're just not seeing that, and like it's just a huge sign that there's something deeply wrong with the Republican Party.
Yeah, and it's it's not like they have a president who's teetering. Like most of the country doesn't like him, so
what's his approval rating again? 40%.
Criticizing him doesn't seem like it would be that huge of a political risk.
No, not at all.
And just kind of running back to what I was saying about impeachment. Yeah. So I'm blasé about impeachment because Pence, but also because we boiled down to it. Impeachment narratives are really, they're not trotted out when a president actually should be impeached. And frankly, if you went by the letter of the law, pretty much every president since Eisenhower would have gotten impeached for collusion in some sort of war crime. But it's used as a political yardstick or whacking stick by the opposition. I mean, let's look at Bill Clinton. There's a lot of actual impeachable offenses he did, but they focused on this moral issue around some illicit behavior in the Oval Office that played well in a lot of conservative circles. It set up the map for 2000 where it's like, we need somebody more morally, a moral Christian in the White House.
Well, I mean, not only that, but that, like, we're talking the Lewinsky scandal, that was like 1997. 1996.
Yeah.
Like, that was the beginning of CNN. That was the beginning of MSNBC. That was the beginning of Fox. That was the birth of the 24/7 news cycle. And like, let's roll back the criticism on the mainstream media all the way back to their founding. Like, that was a story they focused on super hard. That set, like, that is,
it got good ratings.
So it brought in the money. Yeah. That set the precedent for 24/7 news media. And that's why it's garbage.
Yeah. We've brought this up time and time again, is that when you have combination of corporate consolidation, monopolization, and for-profit news media, it's not that we're not necessarily living in like a point where our journalism is censored in an Orwellian fashion, but they have a financial incentive to focus on fluff news stories that make money and to drive the focus away from stories that are critical of the entities that give them money. That's why it was like pulling a tooth out of a bear's mouth to get them to cover the Dakota Access Pipeline. That took months and months months. And they surfaced on MSNBC or CNN,
and they blinked at it. Like, it was not in their cycle for very long. If I remember correctly. Yeah. They were there. They showed up. They covered it for maybe 2 days, and then did a follow-up 2 weeks later about how everything was okay now, even though it's still 100% not okay.
Yeah, the basic pattern with corporate media is when a story gets the critical mass that the average like cable news watching person is like, why aren't you guys covering it? Then they'll cover it for like a couple days, and then they move on to something else, just to be like, see, we covered that. We did. Look not at the corporate sponsors behind the curtain.
It reminds me of the Occupy movement. Yeah. Like, the Occupy movement's one of the big back a couple years ago. One of the big Occupy movement objectives was to get mainstream media, was to force their attention upon them. That's why they were swarming New York. And it didn't work. Yeah. The mainstream media straight up ignored them. They were like, what is protests outside of our front door? What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, whatever.
I mean, I saw this play out in real time last year. I've mentioned this on the show before, but I took part in a demonstration called Democracy Spring, which some really, you got to be an activist geek to know about it, because it was about money and politics. Like, we marched from Philly to D.C., and then we did a week of sit-ins, and it was all over, like, Democracy Now! And, certain programs on RT, NPR, C-SPAN covered it a little bit. And
what they all... Did the Young Turks not cover you guys?
Oh, the Young Turks did. Yeah, I'm sorry. Actually, Cenk Uygur he got arrested that first day with us. And yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention Young Turks.
Go ahead.
So anyway, but yeah, it was very telling who wasn't there. CNN wasn't there. Fox News wasn't there. MSNBC wasn't there. And it was historical. It was like the largest mass arrest on the Capitol steps in this century. And it's very telling. Like, all of the local stations along the march covered it pretty extensively, because
local news,
unless Sinclair has their way, but that's. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit with that neutrality thing.
Oh, man. Media conglomerates and communication through journalism.
So, yeah, essentially, like, because that protest, that demonstration, it wasn't about pink hats and sexism and something that's financially palatable. It was about, like, money in politics. We got to get money out of politics. And a lot of that circles back to the money that the media makes from those same entities. And just going back a little bit to the impeachment talk. So, why the huge focus on the Russia stuff if he's already got all this stuff that'll impeach him? Well, I think it's really telling that, the Democrats are not playing their hand. Because understandably, if they said, let's impeach him now with what we have,
there's no way they could do it.
There's no support from the Republicans. But if they say, like, if they poke the treason, like, xenophobia button with the Russia stuff, that's something that the neoconservatives can rally behind, essentially. So, don't ask whether Trump should be impeached. Ask what are they trying to impeach him for? Yeah, that's really the important thing.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, the fantasy that I live in is that the special investigation manages to somehow indict the entire administration, and we just have to that's my fantasy realm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's like where that's my happy place I go to. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen.
No.
I mean, because, like, going back to people who are delusional supporting this, like, to defend this administration, people who just want to believe what they want to believe despite the facts. Like, I play a lot of D&D. I play a lot of fantasy games, but holy crap, I have not seen a fantasy world that I don't see the fantasy world these people live in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I have a few, like, my Trump friends.
Yeah.
And usually I try to, like, get at it around the margins. Like, we can agree on certain issues around, like, our the way we've fumbled in our foreign policy over the last few years, but they're still in, like, the honeymoon phase, as I call it. And I keep telling them, it's like, hey, I voted for Obama twice, and he let me down. He's gonna let you guys down too. And they're just like, make it great again. He's gonna do it.
I remember in
he knows what he's doing.
In 2012, I actually had my reservations about voting Democrat.
Yeah,
like I really did have my reservations. I was super stoked in 2008 when I voted Obama, but at the same time, I'm just like, in 2012, I'm just like, we're still in wars.
Yep.
Gitmo is it took like nothing stopped Guantanamo from continuing to be a functional facility. Like, that's still there. BT dubs, the American government has every single power to just black back you and take you to Gitmo if they don't like what you're saying.
Yeah, and
it's ridiculous.
It basically boiled down, I think for a lot of people, it was just, Romney, that 2012 was a pretty close race.
That was a pretty close race.
And I mean, I think what it really boiled down to is like Romney, he couldn't get like a lot of the poor rural people that Trump got because I mean he was an elitist. He was the 1%. You know.
Yeah.
It
was his 47% comment that really did him in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that was the 47% comment.
Yeah.
Like was just such a gift to Democrats that cycle because they managed to, you know, use it in their propaganda to convince people that Romney wasn't going to be on their side no matter what. Like, even though they definitely played the religious card super hard because the Republicans always do. But I don't know. What do we got? What do we got on the docket? What do we got on the docket?
Yeah, I mean that was a good opening discussion, and I guess like the only thing I'd say to cap it off is, and you know I bring this up a lot. It was like so election meddling in the greater context of things. If Russia offered the Trump campaign dirt on Hillary Clinton, they were being really lazy because, I mean, you can use Google. You don't need the Kremlin. Not only that, but, and remember, and I tell everybody this, you know, if Russia meddled with our election, they basically poked a stick at it while Chris Kobach and Debbie Wasserman Schultz basically attack it with a sledgehammer. So, you know, I always tell people that it's like, Andy, when are you going to care about Russian meddling? It's like when the DNC fraud lawsuit goes through and when Chris Kobach is going on trial for treason. That's when I will care about Russia.
Yeah. Wait, what Chris Kobach?
Okay, he's the cross-check guy.
Yeah, he's the cross. I know he's the cross-check guy. The treason line is kind of.
Maybe that's a little extreme, but I got really fired up about that.
Like he definitely needs to not be in government.
He's trying to keep people from being able to vote.
Yeah,
I just don't like that.
To top it all off, he's on the committee to, you know, investigate voter fraud.
Yeah.
So the guy who is in charge, like the fact that the guy who is in charge of the biggest voter suppression system in America is in charge of looking for voter fraud. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You're going to make it up because you've already made up you already make up your numbers.
Yeah. And I think
you already tilt the scale.
You know, he finally popped up in like, you know, broader media through that thing where it's like, oh, I want all the social security numbers and information in every state. And this is the same guy I've been talking about since this first show after the election, where I'm like, this cross-check thing, this is what got numerically, mathematically, this is what won Trump the election. And
shout out to Greg Palast.
Yes, shout out to Greg. Yeah, so luckily, I'm finally starting to see people paying attention to this dude. And please do. Chris Kobach he deserves Skeletor.
He deserves your attention.
Yeah, he's a he
deserves your credit. He deserves your most critical sight.
There's this video where he's just talking about like aliens voted, aliens, and you know that's dehumanizing language to make undocumented immigrants sound non-human. But it's just I was like, I wish that I could meet him in person, and just be like, E.T.
I mean, like, if you say it that much, I'm like, what did Stitch come down and vote in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Is that what is going on?
We must vote and help Trump win the Earth election.
I thought the men in black had a good system for getting the aliens, you know, the proper identification so they can live normal life on Earth.
Chris, let the professionals deal with it.
Yeah, seriously,
they won't. They're galaxy defenders. They won't let you remember, and they've been doing this a lot longer than you have. So, all right, all right. You know, actually, well, it's about 5:30, so let's take a quick little break, and then we'll jump into the topics of the day. I think first I wanted to give a shout out to a local victory that an activist group had, and then today is also Net Neutrality Battle Day, or I don't know, was it Battle for the Net?
Battle for the Net.
Yeah,
we keep on having these. It's really upsetting.
We're gonna take you like a little trip down memory lane because you know all this has happened before, and hopefully all this won't happen again. But we'll see. They've got 4 years to try to shove this down our throats, so you know. Life finds a way, and so do oligarchs, unfortunately. All right. You are listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Be apparent, but hunger is a rather prominent issue amongst the student body of Western. The Invisible Need Project is a multifaceted initiative that's aimed to help struggling students. Every 2 weeks, generous people donate their food to the pantry located in the Fawn Student Service buildings or other drop-off locations. All you need to do is grab a reusable bag and grab whatever food you need to help sustain yourself. If anyone's unsure when their next meal will be, or if you have a little extra food you'd be willing to donate, the food pantry is your place. If you're looking to help donate, become a volunteer, or just learn more, call 269-387-4742 or email dosa-inp@wmich.edu for details.
Are you trying to get your local Kalamazoo business name out to the WMU and Greater Kalamazoo communities? Why not do so while supporting Radio Evolution through underwriting and donations? For more information, please visit widrfm.org.
Yeah, slightly different bed music than usual. I was playing some vaporwave. So, by the way, if you want to know this track, this is Minimum Wage Vaporwave Mix. So, all right. Aesthetic. Yeah. If next time we have somebody from the socialist group on campus, I've got a great labor wave track to cue up.
Amazing.
So, yeah. I love meme culture. Okay, so
I mean, meme magic is real. It did elect us Trump.
Unfortunately, yeah. There's that one meme where 4chan prank circa 2005, and it's like they're in like what was it, like some game,
have a hotel or
they make a swastika and
the penguin game or whatever that recently got shut down.
And then below that, 4chan prank 2016, Donald Trump wins presidential election. Which that's a whole other topic altogether. Maybe sometime we can have a bunch of our nerd friends on and we can talk about the intersection of 4chan, anonymous, internet culture, and like the rise of Trump and really. Okay, just real quick. So, internet nerd culture in the 2000s was kind of an incubator for a lot of the radical groups we see today, both anonymous and the alt-right kind of all came out of the same 4chan cauldron. But that's a very long and lengthy topic for another day.
Yeah.
All right, so I did want to give a shout out to some dear friends of ours, the County ID Task Force. Mission accomplished. I'm going to read a little bit from this article here, and this is on MLive on July 5th by Malachi Barrett, and the headline is Can't Obtain a Michigan ID? Kalamazoo County Offers Alternative. Kalamazoo County is the third Michigan government to create an identification card program for residents who lack documents needed to gain a state ID. For an hour and a half, more than 30 people told the Board of Commissioners why they should vote yes. And by the way, they've been coming to meetings in and out for weeks and weeks and months. There's a county ID task force that's been working on this like passionately so hard. We had our dear friend of the show, Larry Provencher, also former county commissioner, on the show a couple months ago to talk about it, and they put a tremendous amount of work into this, and they've had a lot of area activists come into the commission week in and week out to talk about it and stump for it. So anyway, for an hour and a half, more than 30 people told. Yeah, the 6-5 vote was split among party lines, but the Democratic majority approved a resolution creating the ID program. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed by that. And to explain why, so a lot of the Republicans on our county commission, they could be fairly moderate. A couple of them actually voted yes on the Enbridge 5 resolution, which I was kind of surprised about. But I can't read minds. But, they tried very hard to present this as a nonpartisan issue, something that would help, like, the kind of poor and disaffected population. I'm wondering if, like, this it can be made into a partisan issue when you're talking about, like, undocumented folks, especially, like, bring up the whole immigration thing.
I mean, we've managed to turn science into a partisan issue, so I don't know, like... But really, I mean, it's one of those things where I can understand that point, but at the same time, shouldn't we have the avenues to allow those people's, like, I'm still of the opinion that there need to be more avenues for undocumented immigrants to become citizens of the country they live in, just because that's like
and
like,
I think like it's a problem when politicians value kind of nationalist political rhetoric over, I mean, people like documented or not, they live in your county.
Yeah, they live here, man.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, one way or the other, they're gonna be here or they're not gonna be here. Honestly, like, immigrants, like undocumented people still pay taxes.
Yeah.
They still pay taxes. They pay taxes when they buy the things they use. They pay taxes when they buy gas. They, like, if they have a job that pays on a, semi-legal basis, like that income, I believe, is taxed too. Like they pay taxes just like everybody else.
Yeah,
but they're not entitled to, but because they contribute to a system that they're officially not legally a part of because of where they came from. It doesn't make much sense to me. People are going to be transient. People will move no matter what, one way or the other.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, like, to become documented is a very Byzantine, like, Kafka-esque bureaucratic mess.
It is a bureaucrat. Like, that is way too accurate.
Yeah, and
Kafka-esque is actually probably the most on point one.
Yeah, it basically, you have to, Mexico is not on the list of, is on a list of countries that they don't automatically say you can get citizenship. You have to have, there's a bunch of special stipulations, one of which is if you make over $1 million a year, then yeah, you can get documented.
If you're rich,
yeah,
sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you're rich, you can come in, but keep the poors away.
Yeah. So, again, like you said, Luke, they pay taxes. I think that them contributing to our economy and to our government, you should be able to get a library card, ID to use the bank and all that stuff. And furthermore, what really strikes me, especially as being like the kind of anarcho-socialist that I am, why are you? It's like, oh, Republicans are about small government, huh? Why are you letting the big government tell us what to do with our citizens? Because like they may not be citizens of the United States; they're citizens of Kalamazoo, though. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, what I was trying to articulate is, one way or another, people are going to move from one place to another. The only reason why it's not so weird when we talk about American citizens like up and moving from Michigan to, say, Texas or to Nevada, or heck, even to Illinois. Like, honestly, that kind of travel in the most apt comparison to the United States, Europe, they cross countries in the time it takes for us to cross states. They're so tightly packed. One of the great things about the United States of America is the fact that we have this idea that while we still have these local identities, we still are a part of a greater identity, and like the identity of America. And I know I'm gonna sound out here a little bit, but as global connectivity increases, that village becomes larger and larger and larger and larger. Mm-hmm. So to me, logistically, when will the point be when we just accept the fact that we're just people? Like, there have already been some mild attempts at world government, i.e., like the United Nations is an attempt at it. Mm-hmm. It's not super effective, I'd say, in a lot of aspects. The European Union is a smaller, I would say, sort of offshoot of the formula that the UN is built on, and it's doing better-ish because it's still locked into like one region. But as we continue, like, the cross-pollination of cultures and the fact that transportation is just going to become easier and easier and easier as we really go.
Well, I think that's also a matter of perspective, and where you see like it's having a globalist perspective. It's like I hurt, you hurt, but not just applying to like my fellow Americans, but anyone in around the world. And I'd say like political groups, you find that more among like kind of radical leftists and certain kinds of libertarians, and sort of like that. Like Gary Johnson was kind of like that too. He had very different ideas about economics than say Sanders or like Jill Stein, but at the same time he that was. Like, it was a moral compunction. It's like, why do we need to reduce our military budget? Because we're killing a bunch of innocent people. And, that's when you don't have a global, like a capacity for global empathy, then you see people as like the other. Well, they're not from America. Why do I care? And, with a lot of the Republican rhetoric, it's a lot more overt. Using aliens, saying like terms like aliens and stuff. And a lot of Democrats too. It's more like willful ignorance. When you're talking about the fact that no, they don't talk about like collateral damage from drone warfare, or they don't, or when they're talking about. There's a great Intercept article about this a couple months ago, talking about. Kind of like the failings of the Obama administration when it talked about really discussing the issues honestly around why terrorism happens. And for a long time the Democratic narrative has just been like, oh, there's a few bad apples. Why do they think like that? Oh, I don't know, they're just bad, but most of them are good. It's like, if you're that vague, you're not that doesn't really address the issue.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean that's a whole other can of worms that we can open.
Yeah, this show whines all over the place. I mean,
we're everywhere, man.
If you tune in every week, you kind of know that already. But
we really, we really need someone who can, offer a harder counterpoint. Otherwise, we just get sucked into our cycles.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, any libertarians out there listening, we need another one because ours moved to Tennessee.
We miss you, Logan.
Yeah, miss you, Logan. All right. Okay. So back to the brass tacks of the county ID. The resolution authorizes an initial budget of $60,000 to begin the program in January 2018, and creates a 0.5 full-time equivalent staff position. So I guess wouldn't that just be half-time?
Yeah, it's just a half-time job. Part-time job.
Okay. That was just kind of an odd way to word it.
A little bit.
It also creates an advisory board that will report to the Board of Commissioners and seek out grant opportunities. Program will be facilitated by the Kalamazoo County Clerk out of the County Administration Building on 201 West Kalamazoo Avenue. It will ensure an estimated 27,000 residents without a state-issued ID still have access to government and commercial services. According to a report from the task force, state-issued identification is a necessity to everyday life, kind of as we were talking about earlier.
Yep. Everybody's got ID.
Yep. The report states state ID cards ID cards can be required to fill a prescription, turn on utilities in a home, or use financial institutions such as banks, credit unions, and cash checking services. However, state and federal programs may not recognize the ID still. The card may not facilitate access to subsidized housing services, state-funded food stamps, welfare benefits, or other programs, and it will not serve as an alternative to a driver's license or allow the user to vote. Much like the state ID, residents would be required to prove their residency status and identify themselves with several documents. Various types of ID documents are valued on a point scale, and residents must provide 300 to 400 points worthy of identification to qualify. For example, a current passport, that's worth about 200, a diploma, employment records, baptismal records, they're worth about 50 points each. And the cards are likely to cost between $10 to $20 each. So, yeah.
Is that charged for the person getting the ID or just the general cost of each card?
No, well, it doesn't say specifically, but I'm pretty sure that implies like that's how much the ID cards are actually going to cost.
It's not super unaffordable.
No, and I would say like, well, I guess one critique. I hope that they have some way to potentially subsidize this because one of the main populations this was going after is like homeless folks, and if you spend all day like collecting cans or doing some yard work or something, you might not want to spend
your entire day's income
on an ID. But granted, I'm sure that's different person to person.
I mean, I'm sure that's what the commission will try to seek out probably as soon as possible. If I imagine it goes the way it should.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a lot of support. Local institutions and businesses have signed on. Arcadia Ales, Bank Street Farmers Market, Borges, Catholic Charity Services, Kalamazoo College, KVCC, Kalamazoo Community Foundation, and Kalamazoo Public Schools. They all signed on in support. And the cities of Kalamazoo and Portage, as well as Kalamazoo Township, through their own governments, passed resolutions supporting the county ID program. And over 500 county residents signed a letter of support for the ID program. I'm probably one of those folks. But if you want to learn more information about this, the article is up on MLive. It has a few links to, the article at the bottom, they have the full document detailing the ID program and all the various ins and outs of it. It's the report from the ID task force, and if this is something you're interested in, it's a very detailed and articulate report. Be worth your time. All right.
But hooray for local victories.
Yeah, hooray! Woo! And yeah, kudos, shout out to all the folks out there who are working so hard on this. Yeah, it's good to have a win, you know? So let's see what else is on the docket today.
Oh boy.
Oh, so let's talk. Why don't we talk about net neutrality?
Oh,
real quick.
Yeah, let's talk about net neutrality again, guys. The last time we had a serious discussion was only 2 years ago.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that sort of background. So net neutrality is something that this is not the first time we've had to fight against this.
This is what, number 4 in recent memory?
Number 4, yeah.
I want to say 4, maybe 5.
Yeah. Most recently, so basically from about 2002 to 2015, the main telecoms, which would be, Comcast, Verizon, AT&T, who else? Charter falls under that umbrella.
Charter was bought by Comcast, I thought.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, Time Warner. That's the other one I was thinking of. So yeah,
man, we're due for another. We need another trust buster, man.
Oh yeah, and especially, now that with Trump in, granted there weren't very many trust busters left in our government to begin with. There's a few of them in the Democratic Party. But now it is just open season.
We're never going to get a trust buster in because trust busters inherently threaten the lifeblood of money in politics.
Yeah, they sure do.
So currently, I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the credit of the Obama administration, they would put their foot down if mergers seemed just too ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're like, guys.
Currently, I think the Verizon Time Warner cable is... Yeah. Or, no, is it Time Warner and Verizon, or is it Time Warner and Comcast?
I think it was Comcast and Time Warner.
I think it's Comcast.
We're talking about trying to merge.
Currently, the Trump administration is going, well, I don't know about that, guys. Not because, we would see... more centralization in our media outlets and a homogenizing of news and opinion. No, not because of that. It's because CNN talks badly about Trump.
Oh yeah, and that. Oh man, that's pretty petty. And that. Okay, here's what gets me with that. So. We've got an immature president who, wants to stop this mega merger, not because it would be bad for our democracy, but because he's in a petty meme war with the network.
Oh, goodness.
And
but anyway,
and CNN, on their part, their coverage is focused all on the president's trying to stop us from engaging in our freedom and our rights as a network to monopolize ourselves. They don't say that, obviously. They use some alternative language, as it were. But, yeah, it's like...
While I think it's ridiculous that the White House kicked cameras and pretty much everything out of the conference room... Yeah. I think that's ridiculous, but at the same time, CNN, come on.
I can't why a multinational corporation play the victim because Donald Trump won't let us merge. What an authoritarian tyrant. It's I'm gonna go home and cry tonight because CNN can't be part of a mega merger with AT&T and it's an AT&T and Time Warner.
Oh, it's AT&T and Time Warner,
not Comcast.
Not Comcast.
Sorry, correction. So
there were only so many combinations. One of them had to be right.
Yeah, really. There's 4,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah, right.
Although, well, no, actually, they didn't. Disney and there's basically like 6 big media conglomerates that you get all of your media from. I'm trying to think of the 6th one because Disney, Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner, AT&T.
I have no idea. I can't speak to it. But anyway, net neutrality, coming back to this idea where the internet is supposed to be free and open, so one viewpoint can't exactly override another viewpoint, or sites not the ISPs essentially. Goodness, it's hard for me to put thoughts together right now. Essentially, net neutrality, to boil it down, is the act of keeping ISPs from throttling traffic from one site to another, or creating internet fast lanes that they dictate who gets what bandwidth. They're already guilty of this. They're all like the ISP companies are already guilty of throttling traffic to sites. They're already guilty. I think it was Comcast. Comcast throttled Netflix for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because they saw a bunch of people were using it. They actually got into a fight, and what wound up happening was, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Netflix gave in and actually paid them. I don't remember.
I can actually. This is why Google exists.
Yeah. I think I might be wrong, but one way or the other, Comcast has already throttled Netflix. Riot Games, for those of you unfamiliar, Riot Games is the producer of one of the world's most popular multiplayer games, League of Legends. Riot Games has been in fights with ISPs multiple times over the last 7 years over getting their service throttled by those ISPs, and they've worked with the ISPs to figure it out. It's an issue of load, blah 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 blah. But honestly, like, when ISPs want more money from a site, we've already seen a demonstration of them throttling their traffic and throttling speeds from the site to your computer.
Did you want me to elaborate on the Netflix bet? So this is just kind of a good example of, and this is why that there's actually a lot of very large corporations that are fighting for net neutrality. This is not something you typically see, but companies like Facebook and Netflix are part of this battle for the net campaign that's going on today. So for some context, this was a Comcast. They essentially, back in 2014, Comcast forced Netflix to pay a fee to have its shows distributed on its network, and that ended up becoming a really heated battle over net neutrality itself. And Comcast basically said the fee is justified because Netflix accounts for a really large proportion of the data on its network. And Netflix, they ended up paying, but they made arguments to FCC that charging such fees wasn't proper for a company with so much market power. And eventually the FCC last year, or 2015, that is, they ended up hearing complaints about those interconnection fees charged by cable providers. And that's a good example of why corporations are really out there like Amazon and such being part of this fight. But let's talk about like the other side of it too. So companies like Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner Cable, and AT&T, these are the ISPs. And if they have the control over who gets, fast bandwidth, who gets slow bandwidth, what is that going to do? Not for corporations like Netflix that have the money to pay these fees.
No, what's gonna happen to our politics?
Yes.
I'll just cut you off and get straight to the point. What's going to happen to our politics if the ISPs get to dictate who gets what bandwidth? Like, all of a sudden, the only people who get into politics are people with money. Straight up. It makes super PACs, like, super PACs are already sort of a necessity, or at least by conventional wisdom. Bernie proved that wrong. Candidates can win with small dollar, can be successful with small dollar donations.
Well, can I ask you a question just to steer the conversation a little bit? Without net neutrality, do you think
net neutrality, Bernie Sanders would have never had a chance without net neutrality? 100%. Without net neutrality, Bernie Sanders, like the videos of his speeches that were going viral before the first Democratic debate, which was where most Democrats saw him for even the first time. Like, you either saw this crazy old guy talking about something on your Facebook, and then all of a sudden he's on the stage, standing next to Hillary Clinton and three other guys who we don't remember because they all dropped out after the second second debate.
I'm Lynn Chafee. That's the SNL.
Oh, Lincoln Chafee. Yeah. But anyway, like, if we are talking about a case without net neutrality, I totally believe the ISPs would start coming down on people for viral videos. They start doing it. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you monetize this video on YouTube, and now it has billions of hits, and we know you're bringing in ad money because it impacts the YouTube community, it impacts like internet creators of all kinds. Like, as soon as you, like, this affects not only users of internet and like viewers of entertainment, it also impacts the people who use the internet to make their living.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've already seen corporations like YouTube have demonetized people who are really outspoken and have been offering that not sort of truthful, nonprofit, important alternative journalism, like Jimmy Dore Show, the Humanist Report. There's also a few more moderate truth-telling podcasts and YouTube shows on the right side of the spectrum as well. So does that answers the question? Would a corporation like Comcast have the incentive to censor content that damages its bottom line? Well, comparable internet conglomerates have already done that. And the suggestion by Ajit Pai, who's like the FCC commissioner, is to make net neutrality a voluntary agreement.
We'll honor system our communications network, guys. We'll just honor system it. The last time we honor systemed our communication system, like our most modern communication system, like, we had a telephone monopoly that had to get broken up by a presidential administration.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, it's about 6:00. So let's take a quick little break. When we come back, maybe talk a little bit more about the history of net neutrality and more about the implications. All right. Y'all are listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Support for Wider FM comes from Pedal Bicycles, now with 2 locations in downtown Kalamazoo and Portage. Pedal Bicycles has the right bike for every Kalamazoo rider, whether you're blazing the trails, cruising the streets, or just getting off the training wheels. To keep your ride running smooth, Pedal Bicycles offers multiple levels of repair services, anything from a quick tune-up to a complete overhaul. And to keep you safe and looking fly, Pedal Bicycles has all of the gear and apparel you'll need. To discover your spin within, head to 185 Romans Road in Portage, 611 West Michigan Avenue in downtown Kalamazoo, or pedalbicycle.com. Thanks, Pedal Bicycle, for supporting sustainable transportation, Buns of Steel, and Radio Evolution.
This is George W. Bush, and you're listening to 89.1 WIDR, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Kalamazoo. You know what you're listening to, Kalamazoo, Michigan, man. What, are you stupid?
Quick musical interlude while I file out some paperwork. We will be right back. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. You're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. So, kind of going on with what we're saying. So, I was listening to Democracy Now! Yesterday, and I wanted to read from the transcript a little bit. Because, this is really important. They interviewed Michael Copps and Evan Greer. And Michael Copps, he was a former FCC commissioner from 2001 to 2012. So if anybody knows about running the FCC, it's this dude. I wanted to read an excerpt of the interview he did with them, just to give some context to what me and Luke have been talking about. So, Michael says, when you look at what has happened to mainstream media, radio, television, and cable, how it has been corporatized and commercialized and consolidated, how much journalism we have lost, you really get down to the essential question. Is media providing the news and information that citizens need in order to make intelligent decisions for the future? There's a lot of evidence that that's not really happening right now. Net neutrality, however, is a free speech issue, and at its center is the ability of Americans to go where they want on the internet, to access the content that they want, and to be treated like everybody else is treated. So you don't have Comcast and AT&T and Verizon acting as gatekeepers and having the power to slow down sites they don't like, or to block or to throttle, or to give fast lanes to a few while the rest of us struggle along on slow lanes. To be a fully participating citizen in 21st century America, you have to have access to high-speed, affordable broadband, and that is what's at issue now. So, one of the things that he references, and this is a really scary thought. So, as all of us know, the Trump administration is not only partisan, but most of them are straight up Nazis. White. It is rife with white supremacists.
You mean President Steve Bannon?
President Steve Bannon. Yeah. Chris Kobach has ties to some white nationalist groups. We all know. Jeff Sessions would have joined a white nationalist group, but they smoked pot.
Yeah, they smoke marijuana, so that makes them bad people.
It wasn't the lynchings or the racism or the hate crimes or the straight up terrorist intimidation of black people in the South. No, marijuana is the reason why they're bad.
By the way, that's in reference to our Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who once said, "I thought the KKK was cool before I heard they smoked pot." So. Just if you didn't know what we were referencing,
Jeff, good people don't smoke marijuana. Sessions. Or Jefferson Beauregard III.
Yes. What we have is, if these corporations are successful in striking down net neutrality, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, Time Warner Cable, we've got kind of a quid pro thing working here because the Trump administration is helping these corporations.
We forgot to mention that Ajit Pai used to work for Verizon.
Yes, exactly. Ajit Pai used to work for Verizon.
Of course, Ajit Pai would be of the opinion, oh no, the company I used to work for, who used to pay me, no, they'll totally do the right thing and not throttle your internet.
Yeah. And we've seen this administration is more comfortable with conflicts of interest than just about any other administration that America's ever had. So there's not only I feel the terrifying prospect that these corporations will be able to censor content that is critical to them, but might take some cues from the administration on down. I mean, the way that this administration is intersecting with corporate interests. I mean, we've got Secretary of State who's basically the arm of the fossil fuel industry, given government power. Ajit Pai, basically, like you said, he works to work for Verizon, so that's like telecom right there. So, is that something that concerns you too? Not only that these corporations will censor content that is, detrimental to their own financial interests, but they might take some cues and basically do like kind of a scratch my back thing with, like maybe Breitbart will suddenly be blazing top speeds or something like that.
I mean, it's completely possible, even though I don't think Breitbart even has barely. I don't think Breitbart will ever have that kind of operating money. Yeah. Simply because Fox News is still profitable. And as long as Fox News, even Fox News will look at a Breitbart story and go, So to what little credit I can give Fox News, I mean, that's part of it. They will occasionally go, and I do say occasionally, because otherwise, they've already done the whole Steve Bannon mentions. We've already seen this whole Steve Bannon mentions the story to someone at Breitbart. Breitbart publishes it. Fox News picks it up. Fox News cycles it for a day. Donald Trump sees it on Fox News. Donald Trump repeats it. Cycle continues. Some of the more extreme things, Fox News has been hesitant to jump in on, but whatever. I absolutely have no doubt in my mind that if net neutrality was not a thing, ISPs will totally give the highest speeds to the highest bidders. Because really, at the end of the day, it's just about money.
No, that's true.
At the end of the day, it's not about free and open communication. It's not about being able. It becomes a. It stops being a free speech issue and starts becoming an economic issue.
Yeah, and that's a really good point too. I mean, I think we've all seen, there are certain limits to presidential power. Like, he can't just make CNN stop, criticizing him or doing the nonstop Russia coverage, mostly because, the saddest thing that, that video, I refer to the Project Veritas video where they got the CNN personnel on air talking about how, basically Russiagate is good for business, is not even so much that it's that talking about how it's so profit driven and profit motivated. So, a lot of the reason that CNN still has so much power, and that we're not living in an authoritarian state, is that there is a lot of financial power in the coverage that they are doing. And like you said, that's probably what's going to influence the financial decisions of these corporations more than anything else. Is CNN, MSNBC, they're making tons of money. They can kind of scratch our back, so we'll give them the high speeds. Or
we own them.
Yeah, that's true.
Or
making us lots of money. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the case of especially Comcast, I believe it's Comcast that owns MSN or NBC and MSNBC. Yeah. In the case of Comcast, without net neutrality, as far as news sources go, they if you have Comcast for your ISP, they get to dictate. They would get to dictate whose voice is the loudest on the internet.
Yeah. And,
currently,
Comcast is, just to clarify, so Comcast is owned by GE, which also owns NBC, Universal Pictures, a couple, and some various newspapers. But go on. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sometimes it gets hard to track, exactly which mega conglomerate has control of which mega conglomerate.
Yeah, we really
we need a new definite
cheat.
Uber conglomerate.
Yeah,
mega conglomerate. I don't even know. But currently, Comcast, at least as far as I know, is still the biggest internet provider in the Kalamazoo region.
Yes.
So if you're a cord cutter like I am, who doesn't have cable, I am 100% internet only. My entertainment is Netflix, YouTube. I get my news from independent journalists I follow on Twitter. independent journalists I find through those independent journalists. Like, currently, everyone's voice on the internet has the potential to be as loud as the people who put hundreds of thousands of dollars into ad campaigns and whatnot. Like, everybody's voice on the internet is still currently, despite any discrepancies in monetary backing, everyone's voice is equal on the internet. Without net neutrality, that becomes obsolete. That it's gone.
Yeah.
As soon as net neutrality, if net neutrality dies, if you do not have money, you do not have a voice.
Yeah, and essentially, like, the internet has become, it is really like it is the town square of the 21st century.
The internet, like Facebook, is the new public square, and to kind of irk every single person who says, well, this is my wall and you can't say things like that on my wall. This is Facebook. This is a private page. If it's open to the public to see, it's in the public square. And if it's in the public square, the public has the right to comment on it. And it's because especially social media like Facebook and Twitter have sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraged that kind of cross connection. It makes it like those platforms make it easier than ever to talk to people who don't think like you. Most of the time, the conversations aren't productive at all, but at the same time, sometimes they are. But without that, if like Comcast gets to dictate Comcast would get to dictate which Facebook page loads fastest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not just Facebook. Which Facebook page?
So let's take, for instance, the pro Comcast Comcast is Love Facebook page might load a little bit faster than the Comcast Killed Net Neutrality Facebook page.
Exactly.
That's a very broad strokes example. It's usually going to be a little bit more subtle than that, but that's essentially the kind of leverage that these corporations will exercise and have over what has been a free and fair internet.
Yep. And I want to really apologize if it sounds like we're being hyperbolic about this. It's because we're not.
Yeah,
it's because we're not. This is a serious issue that affects everyone who owns a computer, owns a smartphone. Like, if you have a smartphone, congratulations, they get to cap your data at some point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, they could. It's not that they would deny access of the website to your phone. It's just that maybe it takes up that much more data for your phone to load it.
Yeah, and they will have the power and control to do that. And especially as the last year and a half has shown, the importance of alternative news sources like Democracy Now! Or The Intercept or Mitten Press News,
Mother Jones,
in these times, so on and so forth. They are the forefront of truth. When the media only is incentivized to tell the truth if there's some money in it. Like is kind of the example with, Russiagate. There's a lot of truth to that, but there's also a lot of sloppy reporting, and that's because of money. So, with net neutrality, those sites are protected. We can go to those sites and access them just as quickly as we could CNN, Fox News, MSNBC.com. If this passes, they would effectively have the ability to make, maybe some hardcore people, like us or the people listening at home would be willing to wait for those sites to load in 56K speed, but for people who are new and are looking for this kind, it might be just too exasperating for them to reach out and find. It's going to do a lot of damage to invaluable news sources like that, because again, these news websites on the internet are the only ones out there doing that critical reporting. Jordan Sheraton from the Young Turks, I love
that guy.
He's what like 60 Minutes used to do. He's going out there exposing scandals, finding corruption, injustice. We've referenced a lot of his stories on the show, like the water crisis in East Chicago, which, again, that's one of those things the mainstream media just won't talk about. And net neutrality gets dismantled, then a lot of those alternative sites that are at odds with corporate interests for the kind of reporting they do will be penalized for it.
I mean, there is the criticism that independent media and alternative media is young and juvenile and they don't know what they're doing and it's sloppy. And I agree. Like, it is one of those things where anybody can go out and pay $10 for a domain name and start up a news blog and just fart their opinions all over everything without actually doing any credible research. But at the same time, the internet has allowed for the forefront of credible alternative media to spread and to do the work that, like, PBS used to do. PBS doesn't do it as much as it used to at all. It's kind of a network without teeth. They'll let you know what's going on, but their investigation arm has been cut off.
Yeah, and I would say similar thing. Well, I don't know if NPR is never always, they get most of their news is aggregated from like Associated Press and other agencies like that, but there has been more apolitical content, I'd say, over the last several years. A focus more on not necessarily fluff pieces, but life general interest pieces, science pieces that don't necessarily relate to political topics or things that are going on in society and culture.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Although they occasionally do air pieces that are very politically charged, especially some of their affiliate networks, especially WN and some of the programs that come out of WNYC.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, Radiolab is one of my favorite programs.
Yeah,
straight up.
Yeah,
and Radiolab is not afraid to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But without the internet, without net neutrality, we wouldn't have people essentially risking their livelihoods to bring us the truth anymore. Especially like when we can kind of connect this to Sinclair Media Group and others buying up local affiliate stations, local radio stations, local television news stations, and essentially networking them together to form their own sort of base. Like, as stations get bought up by media conglomerates, we are actually in more need of a way to access independent reporting and journalism, and we need to have a platform that allows those people to come together and form their own networks to fill in for the people who used to do that but now don't.
Yeah, exactly.
If you kill it, that's the end.
Yeah, the internet has become the most powerful democratizing tool in generations, and really in American history, because it does allow that freedom of access and that broadness. And what we need, what we should do, expand the power of the internet. Like, I met some fellows at the People Summit back in Chicago who they're doing a lot of work on rural broadband, making sure as many people have access to a free and open internet as possible. But yeah, if these corporations get their way through, Ajit Pai's maneuvering, then, that sort of reporting is toast. Like, I might still have this radio show, for instance, but it's going to be a lot harder for us to find stories to cover, because
it's going to be a lot harder not only for us to find stories to cover, it's also going to be a lot harder for us to disseminate outside of Kalamazoo.
Yeah. We upload our videos to YouTube. I don't imagine we report the kind of things that Comcast would appreciate. And yeah, again, like these websites like The Intercept, which they have some of the best investigative reporters in America. That is an opinion, but if you read their articles, like, they are so thorough, they're very professional, and really just like a standard above most of the writing you will find in mainstream newspapers or mainstream media websites. And without traffic, they will have a hard time coming up with the financial capital to keep delivering that high quality reporting. And I will have a much harder time finding quality reporting to get my information from. Maybe word of mouth. Yeah.
I mean, go back to carrier pigeon.
Yeah,
they can't regulate that, right? Wait, I think they are.
I'll send a telegram to Jordan Sheraton. Like, do you know anything going on? Let us know. Stop. Don't stop.
Hello, Jordan. Stop. How are you today? Stop. Heard any good stories? Stop. Loved your work in East Chicago. Stop.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a little break, and then we're gonna switch topics. Although, real quick, if this is something that concerns you, you do have some options. There's a website called battleforthenet.com. You can learn how to take some action on this. And it's the two, basically, in a nutshell, if this is something you're passionate about, submit a comment to the FCC and send a contact your member of Congress, which, if you live here in the 6th District, that'd be Fred Upton.
He doesn't care.
Oh, he doesn't, but,
make him know that you care.
Yeah. There are a lot of Republicans.
You are so inclined.
Rank and file Republicans who care about this. And a lot of the independents who voted for the 4chan people. You should have seen, like, the poll message boards after this became a thing. It's like, God Emperor Trump said he was going to protect net neutrality. Yep.
Yeah. And when they started going at... That's... just real quick, I find it absolutely hilarious how easy it is for people who supported Trump in the general election to immediately flip when they realize that something that they care about is under threat from him. When, people like the Hoodrat Strategist and myself were screaming from the rooftops, figuratively, the entire time. He's going to do all of the things. He's going to do the opposite of all of the things he is saying he is going to do.
Mm-hmm. He's a con man. Like, he doesn't even have any finesse about it. Like, he's just like, I put a bunch of Goldman Sachs people in my cabinet, even though I spent...
I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
I'm the anti-establishment candidate. I'm going to drain the swamp. Let me fill my cabinet with the richest... Let me assemble the richest cabinet ever.
Yes. All right. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take that break, and when we get back, let's talk a little bit about... we're going to call out G20, or I guess G19, on some of their BS. So keep a dial locked, talking about the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
You're listening to the Split Radio Show. There's more to come on side 2, so turn this sucker over.
Alvan Humane Society is a non-for-profit, no-kill animal shelter that has been serving Allegan, Van Buren, and surrounding areas for almost 50 years. They are hosting their Cares Fund Drive and are over halfway to their $500,000 goal. Alvan can currently house around 30 dogs and 100 cats. Money raised from the Cares campaign will go to build a new shelter, which will expand this capacity by 20%. Alvan Humane Society has 20 dogs and 40 cats that are microchipped, spayed and neutered, and fully vaccinated, ready for adoption right now. To adopt a pet, donate to the Cares Fund Drive, or find out more, feel free to visit them on the web at www.al-van.org.
This is an open slot in the wider clock and could be filled with an underwriting announcement for your local Kalamazoo business. For more information, please visit widerfm.org and head to the support page.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. Everybody knows, like, there's a lot of hubbub about the G20, and a lot of quips and complaints about, Trump. There's that Australian journalist that gave him a pretty good takedown. He's like a lonely child wandering around, and
it was pretty good.
Yeah. But we're going to actually call out the other 19 instead of the one. Recently, Trump came under a lot of scorn for withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, which, him and his administration certainly deserve that. But, as we talked a little bit about on the show before, the agreement was a little weak to begin with. And one of the points that I brought up was, maybe there's a chance, because a lot of people forget this. One of the reasons the Paris Climate Agreement was non-binding, and it was so weak, was because of American influence. And, to be fair to the Obama administration, a lot of it had to do with our Republican climate-denying Congress. But, that's not to say, the Democrats and the Obama administration didn't have their own ties to fossil fuels. As a lot of us know, Hillary Clinton was promoting fracking all over the place, and Obama
Still is, isn't she?
I'm not sure at this point. I mean, she's come out of the woods a couple times, but I don't know if she's...
I don't know. Apparently she's talking about another run for 2018 for something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Oh, man. Well...
Go away, Hillary Clinton. Go away.
Maybe like all the people actually like Hillary Clinton. They can just go start a city. She can be the mayor, and they can all wear the pink hats and then watch all their jobs get outsourced. No,
rough.
Yeah, burn. Sorry. But okay, so so that was the hope that Trump's doing some good in a weird way, because he's galvanizing the rest of the world to take climate change seriously. But as this report is titled, talk is indeed cheap. And this is a report. It's brought to us by a couple of different groups: Oil Change International, Friends of the Earth US, the Sierra Club, WWF, that'd be the World Wildlife Foundation, not the wrestling one.
They changed that a while ago.
Yeah.
There was like a lawsuit over it or something.
Oh, yeah, back in the day. So, and a lot, this report has been endorsed by lots of different climate action groups from all over the world. And the summary, essentially says, recent analysis shows that burning the reserves in already operating oil and gas fields alone, even if coal mining is completely phased out, would take the world beyond the 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming, and the potential carbon emissions from all fossil fuels in the world's already operating fields and mines would take us well beyond 2 degrees. Despite this reality, the same governments that have signed on to the Paris Agreement on climate change, which agrees to hold global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and to strive to limit warming to 1.5 degrees, continue to provide sweetheart loans, guarantees, and other forms of preferential financing to fossil fuel projects that could cause the world to blow past those climate targets. In their analysis, it shows that the G20 governments collectively are providing nearly 4 times more public finance to fossil fuels than to clean energy. So, Luke, it's almost like they're saying one thing and doing another.
Well, yeah. I thought that's what neoliberals did.
Oh, yeah, burn. And
I'm sorry. We got Elon Musk sitting over here going, "I'm going to make an electric car that works. I'm going to figure it out, and then I'm going to sell it to people." And when he finally manages to do it and starts on the whole selling it to people, you have multiple industries stepping in the way. Not like, yes, there's, at least in Michigan, there is the dealership lobby, because there's a dealership lobby. I learned when that was happening, I learned that there's actually a lobby for dealerships, which I think is ridiculous. Inserting a middleman into a transaction, it seems inherently uncapitalistic to me. But there's that lobby. But if electric vehicles really do take off, I mean, which they probably will, you'll also have the oil industry and the gas industry stepping in, because that, automobiles are one of the biggest sources of, they're a huge source of money for these people. So as soon as they go off their fuel, what do you do? I think it's going to happen one way or the other. Ford, a lot of the, at least Ford, I want to say a couple of the other large auto manufacturers are already looking into producing their own all-electric vehicles and going into that, especially since Elon Musk made all of those patents open and available to anybody to friggin' use how they want.
Oh, yeah, and, what you'll see is a lot of these countries are making, they do understand this is where the economy is heading. China's making really huge investments in green infrastructure, but paradoxically, at the same time, according to this report, they're number 2. To oil and gas and coal, it's about $12.5 billion in fossil fuel subsidies. And I was actually surprised to find United States is actually all the way down at number 4, around $6 billion, and Japan actually tops it out at 16, which is probably something a lot of folks wouldn't expect. It's the problem is, for all intents and purposes, what the public sees is very different from what's going on behind the scenes with these subsidies. So while, a country like China can commit to, green energy, at the same time they're making these handouts. And, it'll be easy for, kind of more left-leaning politicians to criticize China over that from here. But look at the darling of North American liberals, the Canadian Prime Minister, and here's the thing, Prime Minister of Canada, he talks a lot of mad game about the switch from fossil fuels to green energy. He's talking about investing in it, but here's a little riddle. or not riddle, but like, thing you wouldn't expect.
Nugget.
The Prime Minister of Canada supported the Keystone and the Dakota Access Pipeline. You wouldn't think it, but it's Trudeau.
That one took me a second.
Yeah,
that was bad.
Yeah, I like telling
that was good though.
Show.
That was actually pretty good.
Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, puns.
Yeah. You wouldn't think he supports fossil fuels, but it's Trudeau. Yeah, and so. Which, Canada's on this list right under Germany, around $2.2 billion. So,
yeah, I mean, and actually, this data is surprising me since Germany has supplied a majority of its energy needs for the last couple of years through green processes. Like, which I suppose is, telling of the fact that they come in at just about 3.5 billion in subsidies to fossil fuels, but like making the switch is more than just using the clean stuff that you're coming from. It means actively subsidizing those industries and weaning the industries that we know are harmful off of government subsidy. Like, people will I know that people criticized Obama when he invested a lot of money into green startups at the beginning of his first term, but it's hard for me to take that criticism seriously when the United States has been subsidizing fossil fuels, oil, gas, and coal for as much as it has, for as long as it has.
And, let's look at the, proportions that they got here. Basically, the study found that these G20 governments and institutions spent over $71.8 billion annual. That's about 58% of, their energy allotment towards fossil fuels, while just 18.7 went towards clean energy. That's about 15%. So again, there's a huge disparity between what these countries say and what they're actually doing. It reminds me of it's kind of like, say, Trump and the rest of these G20 countries. They're both alcoholics. And these G20 countries are saying oh, I'm doing better, I'm cutting down, and they still get absolutely wasted every single night of the week. The only difference is Trump, he's the one who doesn't even know he has a problem yet. I'm fine, I can handle it. There's no problem. I will punch you.
I'm punched North Korea.
Yeah.
I'm just punch North Korea.
Yeah.
What?
And then England's in the corner, Canada's in the corner. I was I'm a bit drunk off the fossil fuels, but please just get away from North Korea. Ain't hurt nobody. I don't know where I'm going with that.
It just kind of
fizzled out. Sorry, guys.
It was the drunk analogy. We went too far.
Yeah,
we went too far.
We did.
We didn't end it.
But yeah, so
we were fishing for the joke.
We were fishing for a good climax to that joke there, but
the climax is that we experience irreversible climate change and burn to death.
I guess the climax is liver cancer is liver cancer, and it doesn't really.
Yeah, it did.
You can say you have a problem or that you don't, but that doesn't
mean you don't have liver cancer.
Yeah, in this case, liver cancer would be climate apocalypse.
Climate apocalypse.
And just to understand the scale of what we're talking about, there's this really good article that compares it to the geological event. This is from The Atlantic, and the title is "Burning Fossil Fuels Almost Ended All Life on Earth." Yeah, it's So why not play chicken with it again, guys, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, there's some good money to be made. So it talks about the end Permian extinction, which was one of the worst extinction level events that has ever gone down here on planet Earth. And we've had a couple of them.
The planet Earth is only 6,000 years old, Andy.
Oh, my bad. But
I'm sorry.
this one,
I apologize.
Yeah, but this extinction level event, it's probably most comparable to the one we're in now, and a lot of scientists have concluded we're basically in the middle of a sixth extinction, based on the rate of loss of flora and fauna, and so Jonathan Knapp, he's a PhD candidate, West Virginia University, and the article describes like the professor kind of gives a he tells it in the form of the story of like how the conditions were, and basically I'll skip around a little bit, but because it's very kind of detailed, but he talks about being like what it would look like in 251.9 million years ago, right around when this extinction level event happens, and it is scorchingly hot. There's no life. There's like wilting weeds here or there. The dunes give way to barren soils, cracked and crusted with salt. The sand-blasted husk of some odd creature sprawls across the wastes. Its fame is mirrored.
It's a really great read.
Yeah.
You should actually just read it.
And he talks about like an eerily backlit and sloshed, a sickly purple and green ocean, and culminates in this megastorm with winds that will top out at 500 miles per hour, with poisonous hydrogen sulfide sucked out of the rotting ocean that topped 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, and like it was the worst moment in our planet's history. And life disappeared for about 10 million years. Like, it took that long for the planet to come back from that. And it notes, like, even insects suffered a mass extinction, which is really rare. Usually, like, insects are the most versatile creatures on this planet. They've survived most of the mass extinctions, except for that one.
It's the only one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it goes on to note the cause of all this misery, and a growing consensus of paleontologists and geologists have come to this conclusion, was burning fossil fuels. Acid rain and a ravaged ozone layer likely also played a role, but geochemical signals in the layers of ancient rock that capture the global die-off suggest a carbon dioxide-driven global warming catastrophe. One so profound it would dwarf... well, okay, so go on. I just want to skip ahead to exactly what happened. So... talking about Pangea, when the world was still one huge supercontinent, and there was a gigantic plume of lava, enough to cover the entire lower continental United States a kilometer deep. And that burbled through one of the most coal-rich regions in the world, covered millions of square miles of Pangea in basalt lava. And as the lava pounded underground, it seeped into the crust, incinerated untold amounts of coal laid down by ancient forests and huge deposits of oil and natural gas. And it basically injected about 40,000 gigatons of carbon into the atmosphere. And that volcanism, it basically let out a bunch of green gases all at once, caused extreme global warming and ocean acidification, and basically that was the cause of that extinction level event. People call it the Great Dying, and that's exactly what we're doing it a little bit more slowly than those volcanoes did, but it's the same biochemical process that we're pumping into the atmosphere that could lead to this type of end game. So, those are the stakes. But most of the world's leaders are talking about a fossil fuel transition. Something, tiptoe into it. That's the sort of like language that we need, like a calculate. And that's what Hillary Clinton said a lot back when she was running as well. Is we need a transition, but we shouldn't. It's too radical to try to do it all at once or too fast. And I think like Bernie and Jill Stein were the only two candidates I could think of who really spoke to the issue with the level of urgency that was needed. Like, we needed a World War II scale effort on this issue, and we're still not getting it.
Yep. I mean, our national defense agencies, the Pentagon, people, like anybody who wants to say global warming is a joke, climate change isn't real, but you love and support our troops and our defense institutions. The Pentagon is quoting global climate warming as one of the biggest threats to national security because it is causing things like the Syrian refugee crisis. Like the whole, like, when if we take a quick look back into the Syrian civil war, a lot of it is because areas of Syria were going arid. We were going dry. Didn't have any water. People were moving to the cities, and that's where tensions about Assad began to spring up. Mm-hmm. Like, global warming, global climate change means that places that had water and could support life now no longer don't. We here, at least sitting in this studio, sitting in this town, sitting in this area, are lucky enough to live in one of the world's richest locations of fresh water. So even if we hit that 2-degree endpoint, the Midwest is going to see a lesser impact than, say, Texas or Nevada, California, Washington, even New York, any of our coastal region, like especially our coastal regions.
Yeah,
straight up.
I joke with a lot of my activist friends out in New York, Philadelphia. It's like, well, when you guys sink into the water, you always come to Kalamazoo.
Yeah,
I got room on the couch, man.
Like, it's not just scientists that are clamoring for answers from governments about climate change. It's not just our scientists. It's not just the scientific community. It's our defense community as well. It's not just environmental hippie tree huggers. It's our generals. Like, it's people who make important strategic decisions about the United States safety mechanism that are also concerned about this, and people aren't listening to them either. So, what's, like, when we talk about it and people get dismissive of it, especially when we talk about it and then look deeper into what is actually going on, all we can do, at least here in the studio, is rub our temples and go, what the heck is going on? Who is in charge? Why are you doing this?
I'd say, like, the argument I do here is, like, if we really did transition that quickly, there would be a great deal of economic upheaval and chaos. And, well, we need some economic upheaval and chaos.
I thought that's what capitalism loved, was economic, economic upheaval and chaos means that there's plenty of space for competition and...
Yeah, I mean, all of these...
The quote-unquote American dream.
All of these countries will admit in public that, green infrastructure is going to replace fossil fuels. We need to focus on doing it as quickly as possible. We need a Green New Deal. We need the Green New Deal that,
that Bernie proposed on the campaign trail. We need the new Green New Deal that Jill Stein picked up. We need a Green New Deal. We need investment in solar cell technology. We need investment in retraining the workforce that has been working in fossil fuels for so long. Like, it's not that liberal America doesn't care about the the people who live in Appalachia who grew up and survived in mining towns. It's not that we don't care about you. It's that we need to catch everybody up.
Yeah, it can't be based on like that neoliberal model. It's like, oh, well, the industries are changing, so tough luck. Here's a job at Walmart. Yeah, no. This issue will not be solved by building more Walmarts.
No.
It's just these G20, G19 countries, get off the bottle. Get off the bottle, or we're all toast. And as far as our own country, somebody get that drunk out of here. And Democrats, please don't replace him with another drunk.
Democrats, get your act together, man. Yeah. Like, stop sitting in places, in a place of like false confidence and false superiority. Yet we all know that this administration is a complete disaster. Yeah. But don't act like you guys aren't either, because seriously, a bumper sticker that says Democrats 2018, I mean, have you seen the other guys?
Yeah.
Is not a convincing argument.
There's a climate article. I didn't read it from it, but it really caught my eye because it caught the sentiment of something I've thought about, which is, do not, there's like centrists okay, I'm sorry.
Is it that article about like Democrats moving center?
Oh, no, well, it's a response to that, and, I
don't remember if I saw it or not.
It's got a really catchy title, if I can find it, but,
nope.
Okay, well, it's not letting me look it up, but it's something to the effect of, Democrats don't go to the center or else we're all dead. I'm paraphrasing, but
it's because the center, and like I remember that. It's because the center, as the Democrats see it, is not the center.
Yeah. And the center, when it comes to climate change, means a slower Armageddon. That's all it means.
Yeah.
You can slow it down or control it, but like we need decisive, radical action, and we needed it yesterday. So don't be throwing someone in 2020.
We needed it. Hey guys.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. For the older folks out there, remember acid rain?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You remember acid rain? You remember how environmentalists raised a huge stink about acid rain, and people didn't really start caring about it until it was demonstrated that acid rain was doing damage and wearing away national monuments. This is acid rain, but worse on a lot of scales. We have a guy in charge of the EPA who wants to repeal a bunch of EPA protections. Those EPA protections, when put in place, stopped acid rain. They stopped Los Angeles and New York being covered in smog. Like, the EPA is important.
All right, so the show's almost over. Well, it's about 7-1, so we went over a little bit. But just to cap that off, Democrats, please, for the love of humanity and for the future of our species, do not throw out another fossil fuel drunk up there, because we're either gonna still get liver cancer, or the current orange drunk who's running the country is just gonna keep drunk driving around the White House for another 4 years. So.
We don't care if you have to act like a vegan to do it.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and please join us next week, every Wednesday, 5 to 7. Y'all have a good night, and keep fighting for that revolution solution.